What's going on, everyone? DSP here. Welcome to the June 30th, 2011 edition of Ask the King. I'm DSP. And hold on one second because I'm going to start my timer this time, unlike last time where I didn't and then I had no idea how much time I had. So anyway, a couple things I want to open up here with, okay? And the first is that I think that it might make more sense to do Ask the King once a month instead of every 2 weeks, because what I'm finding now is the past 2 months I've only done one each month because I've been so busy with releases. But because of that, I seem to be getting a lot of really good questions. I think when people have more time to think about what's going on, when a longer time period elapses between episodes, more stuff happens, and so there's more potential for better questions, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, I already made a thread for the next episode of Ask the King, and it's saying it's going to be in 2 weeks. That might or might not happen, okay? But I'll let you know as we approach. Now, one other thing I want to mention, there's been a very common question, about 3 or 4 people asked me about this. There is currently a bill in our government, okay? It's Bill S.978, and this bill has potential to completely shut down everything that I'm doing here on YouTube, any gaming video whatsoever that's ever been put up on the internet, anyone who streams gaming footage, anyone who records the audio from gaming footage and puts it up on the internet, pretty much anything gaming related that's on the internet right now that's a video will be shut down completely. And not only that, but the bill is really geared towards things such as movies and TV. Now that I can understand, if you're just ripping off a movie or a TV show and you're completely uploading it to the internet, yeah, that's stealing. But what I do, what any other person who does a playthrough does, people who are streaming live tournament footage of Street Fighter, for example, none of that is theft. We're not stealing anything, okay? And I won't get into it now because I have a lot of questions for Ask the King, but I want to let everyone know this is a very serious issue, and I'm going to make a special video about it right after I finish filming Ask the King today, and that's going to go up on my DSPGaming channel, and it's basically going to be the video that's going to be up there almost all weekend while I have time off this weekend, so a lot of people will get to see it. It does require your action. There's going to be some stuff we're going to talk about, a petition, all kinds of stuff to get this shut down because it's absolutely ridiculous. This bill, it's way too broad, and it's not going to do what they're intending it to do. But I digress. If you're interested in it right now, obviously you can do research it right now, but I'm going to make a video specifically about it after I finish Ask the King, okay? Alright, so now on to the questions in the actual episode of Ask the King. Here we go. First question. Hey Phil, now that you have a gaming PC, will you be playing Battlefield 3 or on console or on PC? And that's from Carlos. I've already said this, but it's worth reiterating. I'm planning to select certain games that I know for a fact are going to be better on PC because they're primarily designed for PC, and I'm going to be playing those on my gaming PC. So for example, Battlefield 3 is one. Everyone's been saying the graphics of Battlefield 3 are going to be way better on PC than on console. Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim, I'm going to be playing that on PC because it's, again, a no-brainer. It's a game that was designed for PC primarily, and so the graphics are going to be better. So those kind of games I will be playing primarily on PC. Next question. Hey Phil, if you had to look back at the previous decades, especially the 90s, and had a favorite children's cartoon TV station such as Nickelodeon or Disney, not even a question, he worded it wrong. He says, I ask this because there are a lot of changes over the past few years. I'm not saying that cartoons, but just the media in general. I watched one of your Ask the King videos when you had to choose between either Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse, and you said Bugs Bunny because you love serious, mature comedy. If you were younger, you had a choice between the Fox Kids channel, which was one of the major channels back then, or Disney, and Disney was actually on the WB, which was channel 11, had a lot of Disney content back then. I'm sorry, not the WB, I said that wrong. It's channel 11, it wasn't the WB, it was something else. But they had a lot of Disney-style content. What channel would you watch? And that's from Angel Demon Fusion. Well, I watched a lot of stuff. I watched a lot of the classic Disney cartoons like DuckTales, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, all those, Chippendale Rescue Rangers. I remember all those used to be on, usually they were not like Saturday morning cartoons, they were more like afternoon cartoons. You would get home from school and they would be on TV. There'd be like a 2-hour block. And I used to watch those all the time, but on the flip side of that, I also watched everything that was on the Fox Kids network, like X-Men, Spider-Man, The Power Rangers, even though it's not a cartoon, yeah, it was kind of the same thing. I watched that for a little bit. That was kind of like when I was getting older, when the Power Rangers came out, and I was like, this is kind of weird. But yeah, I used to watch a lot of the cartoons on both networks, and some of the best cartoons I think ever made for kids in that era were probably things like the Batman animated series, the original animated series, and Gargoyles, which was a Disney cartoon. I think both of those were exceptional cartoons. They had continuity, meaning, you know, things that happened in the cartoon carried over to the next episode. It wasn't like each episode was a wipe and you know, if you missed an episode, nothing changed. It was an interesting, continuous series, both of them, and I really liked both of them. I think that they had a lot of adult-style entertainment value. So yeah, I wasn't either side of the coin. I liked everything back when I was a kid, and I watched a lot of different stuff. Phil, what are your demographics like? I technically count as an overseas viewer as I'm from the United Kingdom, but do you know what your viewer count is from non-English speaking countries? Thanks for answering, blah, 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 blah. And that's from Senor Huevos Benedicto. I can answer this question for you because YouTube has a really cool thing, okay? It's called YouTube Insight, and you're supposed to use it to actually check out things like demographics and who's viewing and who's doing what. So what I'm going to do is rolling back the clock all the way back to when I opened my DSPGaming channel, which was April of 2010, okay? What I'm seeing here is you can see the breakdown of who views my videos, and obviously the United States is an overwhelming 55.8% of my viewers are in the United States, so more than half of my viewers are in the US. But then as it breaks it down, you see how diverse my viewing audience actually is. You've got 8.8% of my viewing audience is actually from the United Kingdom, 7.3% is in Canada, 2.2% is in Sweden, and that actually, I'm not surprised because I get a lot of messages from Swedish fans. They say, Phil, you know, I'm a fan from Sweden, and you know, we love your stuff here, so I'm not surprised to see that they're number 4, and then following behind them, Germany, Australia, the Netherlands, Finland, Portugal, and Romania, and they're all very close there, so that's pretty cool to know that I have such a wide viewer base, and just to think, 45% of the people who watch my videos aren't in the US. That's crazy. That's like an overwhelming amount of people aren't in the US, and I have a really large international fan base. That's really cool to know. So I hope that answers your question there. And just for the record, as of yesterday, I now have a total of over 72 million views on DSPGaming, which I think is pretty neat. You know, in a year and 2 months, I've gone 72 million views. That's pretty crazy. So I hope that answers your question. Next question. Hey DSP, I'd like to know how you feel about Ubisoft, or however you say it, continuing the Ezio story in Assassin's Creed Revelations. Do you think that they should have put in a new protagonist? And what's your thoughts on the multiplayer letting you customize your own character? That's from Delta Blazer. Well, I have mixed feelings, okay? First of all, I think that if originally Ubisoft had announced that the Assassin's Creed 2 was going to end up being a trilogy of games, I don't think that there would be any kind of an uproar or anything about using the same character over and over. But the thing was, they didn't do that. I think what they wanted to do was release Assassin's Creed 2, see what the reception was of it, and if it was positive, then they would continue with a trilogy of games, and I really think that's what they've done. I think they've done an outstanding job of putting together such good games within 1 year of release. Think about it. Assassin's Creed 2 was really good, then all of a sudden within 1 year Assassin's Creed Brotherhood comes out, and it's really good, and it improves upon Assassin's Creed 2 in many ways, and now here another year, and another one's coming out. So that's pretty crazy that a game studio can put together these games so quickly. I'm interested. I want to see where the Ezio story is going and where it's going to end. I'm very excited that Altair is coming back. I liked Altair a lot in the first Assassin's Creed. I know a lot of people complain about him and say that he didn't have much of a personality. I liked that. He was like a cold, calculating killer, and I liked that about him. So yeah, I like the fact that there's another game, but at this point, I just have to say that's it. Enough. This will be the end of the trilogy. You have to move on to something new after this. Assassin's Creed 3 can't be the same people again, okay? Desmond, okay, you want to continue with Desmond and his story? That makes sense, but you can't have the same guys again. You just can't. It's getting stale and tired at this point. Now, as for multiplayer, I really enjoyed the multiplayer of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I'm glad that they added it. It's good to see that it wasn't just an afterthought or something tacked on. And I'm really liking the fact that it looks like they're taking it seriously again. They're adding more features like character customization. I'm really looking forward to the multiplayer of Assassin's Creed Revelations. Okay, next question is, Dear Phil, this isn't a gaming question, but I wanted your opinion anyway. I wanted to ask you, well, me and my best friend, we've been through a lot together. Tighter than tight, we've been through some sticky situations. But right now, me and him are waiting for our 4 hot chicks. Now, I believe that every guy has 2 perfect hot chicks in the world. Me and him have been wishing for them for about a month now. I was wondering if you could tell me, because I think that you're really full of wisdom, how can you tell if they're coming or not? Because we really want to know, and I wanted your opinion. Thanks from Juke Matterful. What the fuck is he talking about? There are 2 perfect chicks in the world for every dude. You're going to be sadly disappointed, my friend. Anyway, next question. Wow. Wow. I don't make these up. This is a real question. Okay, next question. Do you prefer LA Noire or Heavy Rain? And that's from JJ12354. Good question. My answer is I do prefer Heavy Rain, and here's why. I think both games, pardon me, it's very hot in here, so I'm going to have to like take the hat off to kind of cool down a little bit in the middle of this, but both games had really good stories. Both games had a lot of suspense and drama. Both games were kind of like a murder mystery kind of a deal. Both games had, I think, revolutionary graphics. I mean, LA Noire had the face capture technology. Heavy Rain was one of the most photorealistic games I've ever seen in my life. But overall, I have to say Heavy Rain tops it simply because the gameplay of Heavy Rain never really gets old. Everything you do in the game is fun and interesting. Whether you're shaving your face, taking a piss, or whether you're in a crazy highway scene where you're trying to use motion controls to keep your car on the highway, or you know, you're doing detective work and doing this virtual AI kind of a deal to try to find clues. Everything there is just really fun and interesting. It really is. The gameplay never gets stale in that game. In LA Noire, it kind of does. About halfway through the game, you kind of realize, I know this is the same formula. It's going to be the same for the rest of the game. I'm going to drive to a case. I'm either going to investigate a body or a crime or something that happened. I'm going to walk around this room and wait for my controller to vibrate and make a weird sound so I know that there's a clue. I'm going to pick up the clue. I'm going to look at it. Okay. Then I'm going to go and find someone. Someone's going to run from me eventually. I'm going to catch them. I'm going to interrogate them. I'm going to try to guess what they're saying, if it's true or a lie, use evidence, and then it's going to wash, rinse, and repeat over and over and over and over. That's pretty much the entire game, except for the last act of the game where there is finally some action and combat. That's a little bit more than the rest of the game up to that point. But you will, at some points, get bored. And I did. I got bored. I got bored at certain points in LA Noire. I said, man, I'm really liking where the story's going. I wish there was more story right now rather than me walking around looking for these stupid clues or, you know, the generic interrogations that I was doing. So, Heavy Rain never felt boring to me, never felt repetitive, and I loved it from start to finish. One of my favorite games of all time at this point. So, yeah, Heavy Rain definitely is a step up from LA Noire in my opinion. Next question. And now this one, I summarized it significantly because it was a very long-winded question. Basically, here's the question. When you have to censor things in your videos, why do you do it the way that you do? Meaning, why do you just take a picture and like superimpose it over the screen? This particular person's name is Ratty Redemption. He would prefer if, like, for example, if there's a naked girl, I just put covers over her nipples that move with her as the camera moves rather than a big blotch that covers the whole screen. He says it does kind of ruin the immersion into the game a little bit. And he says, could your fans help you edit your own videos more tactfully without blocking the entire screen? Well, the reason I do what I do, there's 2 reasons. Number 1, because I'm trying to get the videos up as quickly as possible. And number 2, because I just don't have the video editing equipment or expertise to do a better way. Okay? It's very hard to have a picture just cover specific parts of the screen, especially when the screen is moving. If it was a still picture, sure, I could put things over nipples or whatever, you know what I mean? Or if there's a dick, you just cover the dick. But it's a lot more hard when the camera's moving, the person's moving like this around, and it's not always on the same area of the screen. I've tried in certain situations to do it, and it didn't work out well because it was too difficult because the thing just kept moving. So, unfortunately, more often than not, I just end up blocking a large portion of the screen with a picture until the nudity is gone. Could the fans help? Unfortunately, no, not really, because again, I'm trying to get the videos up as soon as possible. I can't stop everything, stop the playthrough for several hours to try to find someone who can help me edit these videos. So, it is what it is at this point. It's a shame because if YouTube had proper filters to keep, you know, younger people from seeing the nudity or a video that's flagged as a mature video, then I wouldn't have to edit at all. But it is what it is, and I have to do it that way, and that's it. Okay? Okay, next question. Hey Phil, what's your opinion of the Sony exclusive game characters like Kratos and now Cole from Infamous being introduced into fighting games? With tons of experience in the fighting game genre, is this just a gimmick to milk the games for more money? Since Kratos is actually an NK9, but he's hardly used by anyone who plays online anyway. Thanks for replying, and that's from Solid Snake. Well, the bottom line is this. This was done before. If you remember when Soul Calibur, I forget if it was 2 or 3, I think it was 3. When that came out for multiple consoles, each console had an exclusive character. I think one console had like Spawn, one console had Zelda, and one console had Heihachi. When the next Soul Calibur came out, they did it again. One console had Yoda, one console had Darth Vader. Is it a gimmick? Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick to try to get you to buy that version of the game. Now, does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, is it something significant? Actually, if you're just a casual player playing the game, sure. I think it's cool that you could buy the PlayStation 3 version of Mortal Kombat over the Xbox 360 and you get Kratos. That's cool. You get an extra character. So if you're just a casual player, that's a nice thing. But the thing is, these characters always get banned. They get banned in tournament play because it's not an even playing field. Not everyone owns the same version of the game, and it would be unfair if you enter a tournament and you have to face Yoda, who's not on your copy of the game, and you get completely raped because you've never seen him before. So these characters that are console exclusive characters get banned from fighting game tournaments. Therefore, they're completely worthless when it comes to a competitive scene. And that's why, if you want the honest truth, when you go online, you don't see a lot of Kratos online. It's because he's banned from tournaments, so people say, if I'm going to play online and try to get good at this game, and maybe go try to play in a tournament, I can't use Kratos, you know, in a tournament, so why would I waste my time learning him and playing him online? So, it's a neat gimmick, it's a neat thing to get people to buy a certain version of the game, but at the same time, it's really nothing significant. You're not getting any extra value because those characters are always going to be banned from tournament play. Okay? The next question is from XMiltMoneyX007. His question is, I just want to know, what are your thoughts on the new wrestling game WWE 12? I know you don't normally like simulated games, but what do you think about them changing the name from SmackDown vs. Raw to just WWE, and will you be buying it? I'm interested. The concept sounds interesting. It sounds to me like they're taking it more seriously, and they may go with like the All-Stars game that came out earlier this year, maybe a more arcadey feel. And then they might have their regular WWE line over here that'll be a more simulation. I like the WWE games. I actually like the SmackDown games. I played a lot of them on PS2. My friends used to play a multiplayer, and we liked it a lot. And I'm looking forward to this. I want to see what they're going to do with it. Well, I want to see if the changes they're making are significant enough that they're completely renaming this series WWE 12. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of information about it yet, besides them just kind of being at E3 and talking about it. They didn't really show any significant changes. So I'm interested, and yeah, I will be trying. I think it's time for me to try another wrestling game. Next question. When making your videos, like your weekend preview or your channel updates, do you ever screw up what you're saying really badly and then end up having to either edit it out or start over, like a blooper? If so, I think it would be cool for you to start putting all those together and make a special blooper reel vid. It probably would be really funny to watch. Thanks, Alfred. You know what? No, actually, most of the time, and as you can see, you know, I do kind of stuff. I do other stuff during my videos. I'm very honest with my videos. I don't recut videos. Almost never. The only times that I ever do that is if I completely blank. And that's only happened a small handful of times over the years that I've been doing videos on YouTube. So I'm not really worried about it. It's not really that big of a deal. You could call me one take Phil, because literally what I do, if I screw up or I go blah 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 and I missay something or mispronounce something, it's funny and I just keep rolling with it. So no, pretty much I just do one take and that's it. Next question. Phil, of all the years of playing Resident Evil games, what are your opinions on the direction that the franchise is going, being more now of an action-based style rather than a survival horror game? Also, there's a new Resident Evil game called Operation Raccoon City, which is taking place during the first 2 Resident Evil games. But you play as guardsmen of Umbrella that are trained to kill the survivors of the outbreak. What are your thoughts? Are you going to play this game with Rambo, etc., etc.? And that's from Big Star 17. Well, great question. What I would like to say is, personally, I like both. I like the original Resident Evil games that were more of, the controls were clunky, but it was more about finding items and solving puzzles, versus now where it's becoming a lot more action-oriented. Ammo is a lot more plentiful. Now there's co-op with Resident Evil 5. A lot of people have problems with that. I personally like both. I don't see why, you know, people didn't like Resident Evil 4 or 5, besides the fact that it just wasn't more of the same. You know what? Maybe it's time to change it and not have more of the same. I think the reason, excuse me, for the backlash was because they haven't made another survival horror style Resident Evil. They all seem to be going action based now, and people seem to have a problem with that. Yeah, I can understand that. If you really had a game style that you really loved, and all of a sudden they're changing it completely, I can understand why you would be annoyed or concerned or pissed off that they're not going along with what you like anymore. So, yeah, personally I like both. So I have no problem with the way they're going. It's just a shame that you're kind of losing that traditional survival horror gameplay. Now, as for the new game coming out, I've seen it. What I'm really thinking here is that this is like what Resident Evil Survivor should have been, and forgive me if that's not what the name of it was. I'm talking about the game that was out on PS2. It was that co-op online game where there was a lot of problems. You couldn't do voice chat, so you couldn't really communicate with the people you were playing with, and it was pretty much impossible to figure it out unless you were doing an online chat at the same time so people could communicate. I think back then the technology wasn't there to do that kind of game yet. It was ambitious, but it wasn't there. Now is the time to bring that kind of gameplay back, and it's the perfect time to try to have this kind of game come out. Got time for one more question. Okay. This is a long one, but let's get through it. Hi Phil, seeing as you're a wrestling fan, I hope you give your opinion on this. Several wrestlers are now beginning to start up their own YouTube channels and put up videos. Guys like Val Venus and Matt Hardy, and more recently the Ultimate Warrior, have been doing it. Now the Ultimate Warrior is actually getting a lawsuit from Hulk Hogan because he said things about him, kind of crazy things about like Hogan going on drugs and stuff like that. And Hogan's basically suing him, and it's unclear whether it's just his ego or maybe it's because it really is slanderous and it didn't really happen. You know, we don't know. But anyway, the most famous channel arguably is Zack Ryder's channel, who has gotten so popular on YouTube that he's able to sell out all of his shirts on WWE.com because he's genuinely entertaining to watch, despite the fact that he gets very little time on actual television, and he's basically a jobber, and a jobber is basically just someone who loses every single time. This just shows that he's really a misused guy, and it leads to my question: what is your opinion of wrestlers making YouTube accounts? Do you think it's a good new step for wrestlers to take to show themselves to the wrestling community, or a bad one? And that is from HYONP. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I think that this phenomena is interesting. I think it took a while for wrestlers to realize what YouTube was and say, hey, wait a minute, this is a creative outlet for me to say what's on my mind and basically sell myself when my mainstream company that I'm with isn't using me properly. Zack Ryder is probably the best example. He went from literally absolutely no time at all on TV, okay? He wasn't being used properly at all. And he put up a YouTube channel, made a funny show on it, and he's hugely popular on the internet. And yeah, people do buy out his merchandise. So it's actually funny because the writers have been trying to use Zack Ryder on TV now because he is so popular on the internet. And Vince McMahon, and again, this is going to my argument against Vince McMahon and how he's a senile little idiot and needs to step down. But Vince McMahon told his writers, no. I know it's in the show. I know we were going to do it. I know he told Zack he's going to be on TV. I'm overriding it, because the internet doesn't count. The internet shouldn't have any bearing on what we do here, so fuck that, we're only doing what I like. And that's literally what happened. He was supposed to be on TV several times in the past couple of weeks, and Vince overrode everyone and said, no, I don't want him on TV. So, fuck you, Vince McMahon, I'm done with your shit. Really, you really pissed me off. First the CM Punk promo problem, now, you know, hearing all of this about Zack Ryder, you're a fucking idiot, and you need to step down and hand the company over to people who are going to make you numbers, rather than just doing the same old, and only selling John Cena t-shirts, okay? So anyway, I digress. I think that's a really good thing for wrestlers to do, but wrestlers have to be careful, because you have to realize you might say something you don't mean, you might say something silly, and then it's going to make you look stupid or get you in trouble with your company, okay? Alright, that's it for part 1 of Ask the King. I will be back with part 2 right away.